I'm Kathryn DYER.
I'm KARL ZOLTAN.
And this is
Can't Tell You Everything podcast.
it's episode 2.
Episode 2. And we're doing it again.
Right. I mean, essentially to us, it's like episode 100 because
That's a lot of work and trial and error for sure.
it's not even work. I think it's just the stress of creating something that you have no idea where it's going. So today we had talked ahead of time. We actually planned something.
Right. We just planned a topic. The rest just flows.
So we thought we'd talk about how we came to photography and kind of that whole story.
Yes.
And I think a good place to start is to begin with. So I had never had social media before. I'd never had a Facebook. And I mean, I say that because that's what most people start with, I think.
It could have been something before
I
that.
never
I
had
don't
Twitter. Oh, well, MySpace.
Yeah.
Anyway, I never had
knows?
any social media until I got to photography. However, you had an Instagram earlier on.
Yeah. We went to Bremerton, Washington. We mentored a kid and he was in the Navy. So we went up to see him and we took our son with us and we stopped for pizza. He whipped out his phone, took a picture of it and posted it. And
that was like the iPhone 2 or something, like
no
really
clue.
early on.
6 years ago,
Instagram
5
had
years
the
ago.
frames around everything.
And it was,
heavily
remember, just the square
filtered.
pictures. And
Right.
we didn't know what the heck it was. So he took a picture of his pizza, posted it. I wanted to interact with our son. So I took a picture, got the
No,
app.
come on. It's beyond that. You
I like stuff.
are an antsy pants. Like you cannot wait.
Antsy pants?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
You cannot wait to get every new technological
Well,
thing
yeah.
because somehow it makes you feel like you're doing something.
No, because I love it.
Okay.
Technology
well, it's a
is
little
king.
bit your ADHD. You love to get
That's right.
a little bit of everything.
Yes, yes.
But, you know, it worked out. So you had that probably, I'm trying to think when we went and visited him. That was
A while ago.
Yeah, I mean,
And we've always,
3 years maybe before my cancer, I would say
yeah, I don't know.
2 to
But
3 years.
we didn't do much with that program. But when you had,
Well, I didn't have it yet.
yeah, and I had it, and it was just whatever.
You kind of posted like what you were eating.
It was
or
like
Right.
whatever.
It
It's
wasn't
like texting somebody.
And you were
basically.
taking the photos with your phone.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, and you know, done photography for years, but for other things, never for social media. I didn't even know what social media was. But when you got cancer,
meanwhile, like I had this lump in my breast, and
mhm.
you know, this was a long process. That's a whole nother story. And eventually I found out that I had invasive ductal carcinoma. And
Not good.
well, I don't think it's a myth that there is a good cancer.
That's true.
It's one you
That's
hear a
true.
lot when you're a cancer patient.
It's hard. It's
but
hard.
so anyway, our world just became heavy. You know, it was
Very.
right, and you know,
It's like getting slapped in the face with a 2x4.
that's a good analogy. But you have to, yes, while you're on one of those moving people movers at the airport and you get slapped in the face with that thing, it fell off the ceiling and hit us because literally you have no choice. The people mover keeps moving.
Yeah.
You have to get to your flight, which was my surgery.
Right.
You have to keep moving. So even though this 2x4 fell off the wall and hit us in the head, we had no choice but to keep moving because everybody else keeps moving.
And we're moving even though we're on our back and we can't move, but
Right.
we're still moving. That's good.
Right.
Very
Right. And
Yeah,
everyone
that's
else
a
is,
fact.
you know, expecting us to keep moving.
Right.
So, you know, life goes on.
good. Right.
And anyway, at some point during this whole process, I got an Instagram and we were taking photos with our phones at first. I remember that. And then one of your wisest moments,
Yes, of many.
and this is recorded, so I'm just letting you know that I'm throwing that out there on a
No,
recording.
I appreciate that.
One of your wisest moments.
I'll play this over and over.
You went out and got us an entry-level DSLR camera.
Yes, full frame.
Right. But it was an entry level.
Right.
It was a kit.
Right, from Costco.
Well, I don't want to get into any brands or anything because I
From
don't
the
know if
store.
we're allowed to.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was a kit, came with like a certain, maybe 2 lenses, the body, And I don't think it was full frame. It was cropped sensor.
Was it?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It was
It's
the
still
first
more than we
one
could handle at
but
the
anyway,
time.
you know, we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
And I actually really loved it. But you got it because you said, let's learn this together. And, you know, keep in mind, we had just been hit with that 2x4 and we were still on the people mover. I was literally thinking, okay, you know, because
What
I
else
don't
are
know
you
what
going
else
to do?
to, exactly.
Right.
I
What
don't
else
know
are
what
you
else
going to
to
do?
do.
And I took advantage of you that way because now we got a camera and then we got
Well, no, I thought it was really smart because we had to do something to
No.
get out of our heads.
There was a plan.
And it did help. And I have more on that I'm going to talk about on Chris's show because there's a whole story behind this
Right.
that's, you know, really important. But
Right.
so we got this camera and then we went out and we started shooting with it and learning as we went, which really, really was fun for me because I can get in my head about things. And thankfully, I didn't go online or look up tutorials or look up the rules.
Right.
We didn't know.
And it was all encompassing and it took up, you only have so much that you could be thinking about at one time. If you fill that up with new stuff or other stuff than the bad stuff, that's a good thing. And that was the idea. And it was fun. And we were learning together. And
we saw so many places we would have never seen.
That's right.
That was a big thing for me.
Because we did nature photography. We had Lake Tahoe. We had a lot of beautiful places around us to go shoot. And that was our excuse to get out of the house. We even drove around local areas at the outskirts. We found our oak tree.
Oh,
just
I forgot
at the edge
about
of town.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was our sanctuary. If we had a bad day. It was
like within 5 minutes of our house, probably.
It was.
Right? Yeah.
And it was like in the middle of nowhere. And the good thing was the sunset right by it. And we'd go there for sunsets. And it was our salvation. It helped us. We healed through photography basically at that time. And we went to that oak tree many a night because it was close, beautiful, convenient.
And peaceful.
Peaceful. It was just glorious. It
was like our sanctuary. It really was. It was
right.
It was just, and it was strong and what it represented, and it was just very powerful. And keep in mind, this is all while cancer's going on. We're still on
the
that people
beginning stages.
mover.
It's hard.
Right, but we're still on that people mover.
Yes.
So we are out experiencing a gorgeous place with gorgeous light and finding new places. And at the meanwhile, I'm still checking my phone and I'm seeing are my lab results in because I don't even know my staging. And again, there's a whole story with that. But, you know, I'm as present as I can be for the situation. And that's all thanks to you with that camera, really. And I feel like I'm going to be talking about fate like every time we're recording this because it's almost like it wasn't meant to happen, you know, but it happened and it was like a parallel journey to the cancer journey. You know, it's like, here's the cancer journey and here's the, you know,
right.
And we saw so many beautiful things and places that we wouldn't have even seen in healthy times, but let alone when we're, you know, stuck in this process.
Right. We needed a release, and we went out often, even if it was a half a day, to go shoot, to experience nature, and to get fulfilled. And then we started posting those pictures on Instagram.
Right.
You started posting, I started posting, and we started getting a following. And it just kind of went from there.
It was a different time with Instagram. We should point that out because this was
the previous owner before Facebook bought it.
This was 2014.
Yes.
It was still square shots at that time when we in the beginning, because I remember really trying to shoot to crop. You know,
right.
It was an interesting.
It was
thing.
tough because I like landscape.
I learned shooting that way, so I learned to shoot to crop. So actually, once you could post your full shot, it was a little. I had to relearn, kind of. Right. I was never really comfortable saying like I'm a photographer.
Right.
Because what I feel like is I feel like I'm a human being who used the camera as a tool.
We did. You did.
And I'm sure maybe that's what everyone does, but I guess what I mean is I'm not technical. I'm 100% from the heart. It was a healing tool, just the same as drawing is for many people, or writing, journaling. And that was the one that you brought to me. You know, you really brought that into our lives.
Our release.
It was, and honestly, I think had it been in regular life, I would have been so in my head that I wouldn't have gotten the same, I wouldn't have allowed myself to get the same enjoyment from it.
Absolutely.
I think that I gave myself a break too, because I knew I was going through so much. So I allowed myself to fully immerse in this world and learning it and trying to create and trying to find these moments of peace during this storm.
Absolutely. And another aspect I'm thinking as you're talking is once you get hit with something that can kill you, you enjoy and look at life differently. You enjoy each and every day.
Well, right. And like
and
I
we
said,
did that.
Part of this goes back to the speech I gave, and I'm planning to have an episode on Chris's show where I cover more deeply the meaning behind all of this.
Right.
But for me, honestly, like, yes, at this point, I'm there where, but at that point, I can't say my perspective had changed because I'm literally just surviving each day. I wasn't past it to where I could have that perspective and think like those types of things, because I was just hanging on every day. You know, I was waiting for tests. I was waiting for staging. I was waiting for, were they going to tell me I was going to die or not? You know, I mean, I had such heavy things going on in my head, such really serious things, that it was easy to forgive myself in other areas, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Normally, when I learn something, I'm a perfectionist. I'm over analytical.
No.
Yeah. But with this, I forgave myself not knowing the rules. I let myself just let it happen naturally. And it was such a powerful experience for me. And it was a little, you know, probably different for you because we were going through kind of parallel journeys, but very different.
Yes, it was. And, you know, we were learning a lot.
And we were sharing that camera.
Yes, I was just getting into that. I'm
yes.
getting into that right now.
Yes, that's the strength of this relationship.
Oh, it was strong until it wasn't strong and we had to get another camera. But we were
You wanted another camera. Come on.
Well, of course. But let's just go back to the camera and shooting and why. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, it was a little different, but it's still to enjoy every day, to get your mind off of it, because I'm a caretaker for you. I love you. I want you to be happy. And
well, and you were also waiting to see if I was going to live or what's
No,
going to happen.
I know, but my job is to comfort you and help you through. And then when you're having a tough day, I feel like I'm failing. It's just my nature. So it was very hard, but getting out for photography and enjoying nature and starting to look at things differently, and then posting and then editing, and then learning the camera. But the problem was, like you said, we had one camera. So when we got to take pictures at certain locations, we're at the same place taking different shots, but we have to interchange the camera.
And sometimes like I'd want a different lens and
yes.
Yeah.
So it was tough. And then the other thing was, you know, we have a good picture there and I'd say, I took it. You say you took it, and you probably did, but I wanted to steal it. So it starts getting rough. There's a lot of dynamics with shooting with the same camera, dealing with cancer. And
at one point, I remember when we'd be out on a shoot and we'd say, let's take a picture of our face first and then shoot. So we know it's that person's photos.
It got vicious. It got vicious. And it's tough. But that's when we started.
It's a cutthroat world, babe.
No. We had to fight over followers. No, I'm kidding. But what it was is we developed an eye. We developed some skills. We started to have different perspectives because we shoot differently, and we were growing. So we got to the point where we needed another camera, and we got another camera. And did you get the new one? You got the new one, and I kept the old one because I'm a giver, babe.
Well, at one point, I mean, we've had many cameras now, but at one
Well,
point,
this is the beginning.
when you first went full frame, I stayed with the crop sensor. And mainly I had I really enjoy shooting wide angle, and I had a wide angle lens.
You had a perfect lens
really
at the time for you. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one thing when you upgrade cameras or switch cameras, it's tough because you can sell that camera. It's almost like upgrading cars, really. I mean, or computers,
features,
you can, but the lenses don't fit. The accessories don't fit. So you can upgrade, but then you can't,
can't get a whole new setup with lenses, cameras, everything.
The price, it's tough, but also you're attached to it, and it's a whole different way of shooting. The first full frame, I had a lot of trouble adjusting it. It's like when you are hitting your stride, whether it's running or just with whatever you're doing and hitting your stride.
Yeah.
And then there's a hurdle put in your way, you know,
right.
and that's kind of what it was like for me when I switched to the full frame.
Absolutely.
Because it was different lenses, and it was just a process of trusting myself too, that I knew what to do with a different tool.
Right. So let's get back to what we did with the pictures and inspiration you got from people when you were posting we started with Instagram, and the connections you made. That's a whole nother dynamic. Forget about the camera. Let's go into the pictures, responses, connections.
So basically for me, I didn't understand social media, but I didn't really care because I had so many more important things going on.
Got a lot going on.
Right. I mean, just a few things like cancer testing, all this. I mean, I just put it out there. I just thought, okay, well, I'll just post, and they were horrific edits. I knew nothing, and it's not like I had even taken the time to research and look at other people's stuff, because I didn't.
Right.
I needed to do this for me. It wasn't a research project. Normally, I put a lot of thought, and I did put the thought, but into what I wanted to put out there only, kind of like we are with this.
Yeah.
So, you start kind of, it's very interesting with followers. I feel like, and I feel weird calling them followers because it's more relationships.
Well, you follow them too.
Point.
We're all followers.
Right. But I feel like, there's many, many people that I follow today that were followers, that I met then. So that's almost 6 years ago now.
Yeah. And the interaction, you find people like this podcast or anything else. We talk about inspiration, touching other people, delight. When you were posting, you might not have known the rules of photography at the time, but you did your passion. You did what you felt was good. Other people connected. Other people connected to the cancer because they're going through cancer.
Yeah, but not necessarily. So remember in the last episode where I talked about how my joke went over flat at MRI fitting room? You'll recall this. I had, probably at least twice, I had people that I thought I had a relationship with on Instagram because I'm a very trusting person. So I just thought like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I thought communication is clear and
two-way street.
Right.
Yeah.
And 2 different times, once my account started to get more popular, and I was moderating for this other account, and, people then will DM you and direct message you, and they'll say, can you put my image on what you're moderating this week? Or can you, I want to for everybody. However, there were themes or there were certain parameters within what I have to act, and I can only feature so many photos during my moderating of this page.
Right.
So, I had a back and forth with someone, and it ended up to be a thing where, I couldn't feature their photo. I had put it in, and I had asked the account.
And you didn't make the final decision anyway.
Right. Well, that's my point. Like, I suggest, and then they pick what they want.
Right.
And I think I suggest 3 or 4 each time, and then they pick one. And, it's really hard to explain this. This is through language barriers, through direct messaging. But anyway, I had somebody really disappointed and kind of wrote me a really, really nasty direct message. This is after knowing each other through Instagram, though, for a few years and being supportive through my cancer stuff. And to be really honest, I ended up crying, which, I was really heartbroken over. I took it very personally because I think I took it so hard because I felt like they didn't understand that I didn't let them down on purpose.
Yeah, you're working out of a good place, passion, and trying to do the right thing. Unfortunately for you, when your account got big, say 60,000, 70,000 or plus, I don't know where you were at that time.
I don't know either.
But then we get into the fancy dancers. And then the connection is not the real connection we talk about on the podcast that we try to do with people. It has nothing to do with money, progress. We don't want anything from anybody. It's for the connection. But if you get that big, they don't want the connection.
At the
they
time,
want promotion.
At the time, neither one of us really understood that.
No, I know, but that's what we learned.
Right, but what I'm saying is at the time we didn't really understand it. And there was a time when my account was, it wasn't the number of followers, it was the amount of activity I was having. It was going so fast.
The likes.
And I had been put in by someone else who had been a suggested user. However, I was never aware, or told I was made a suggested user, but I was getting, quite a few likes. And then I would get direct messages also of local people that wanted to meet up with me.
As your account grew, things began to change.
Right. But I think more the point I was trying to make is that because I was so new to social media in general and I go from the heart on so many things.
Right.
I was devastated to think that one person all the way overseas somewhere who I'm probably never, ever in my life going to see in person, was upset at me for not featuring their photo. I mean, I was devastated.
Oh, it's an eye-opener.
It is now at this point. At the time, I really felt horrible. I felt like, oh my gosh, am I a horrible person? And the worst was I tried to explain, like, I suggested your photo. I screenshotted to, and I went through this whole thing of, and then in hindsight now, I'm able to look at that and think, this is one person, And so I guess what my message with this that I'm trying to get across is, what I have learned through this process is, you will never please everyone.
Right.
There are only so many relationships in life that you really have to nurture and hold dear and make a point not to have that falling out or misunderstanding.
Right. And that happens.
But what I'm saying is this wasn't one of those relationships. But I treat every relationship like it is.
You're all in.
Right. So or I just feel responsible. I don't want anyone to have a bad day because of me.
Yeah, you're too kind.
And for this person, it was probably like a one and done, whatever. I chewed her out and blocked her on Instagram. Yeah. Oh, well. And to me, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like I hurt their feelings.
Well, yeah, there wasn't a connection. And when you start getting bigger like that, a lot more of these people come around. I mentioned a tree earlier. Mm-hmm. The oak tree. And then when you were going through chemo, we had a rough day this one day.
We had many rough days.
No, I know. Chemo. But this was a particularly rough day. And we said, let's go to the tree. We're going to go to the tree, chill, get our breath
mojo
back. Get our mojo back. And then we're driving out there. Mm-hmm. And then
which is like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but there's two turns. It's out in the middle of farmland, lone oak tree.
But you can see it once you go by the first turn, right?
Right. So we go through the first turn,
like a beacon calling you in.
And then I'm looking, and I don't see the tree, and I'm going.
No. I think I said to you, like, do you see the tree?
Yeah, I didn't see the tree,
and it was still light out.
Yes, it was light out.
We get there before sunset
at dusk, and we didn't see the tree.
And then we're thinking, well, maybe like we're just not at the right angle.
Right,
or-
right. We're hoping for the
something.
best, and we're saying, how can this old oak tree disappear? Is what I'm thinking. I go, it's got to be there. We're not looking right.
Right. No, I agree. Because though it's not like the field had been plowed or anything else had been changed. So we're thinking like, from what we could see, the tree should be there
Yeah.
once we turn the other
It
corner.
was just there the other day.
You know, so as we're approaching the second corner, we're thinking when we turn this one, we're going to see the tree.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see the tree.
Well, we saw it, but
Well,
it was on
fell.
the ground.
The tree fell. Our solid oak root. It was our root. It was our base. Sanctuary was gone. And that was devastating. It split in half and fell over.
Well, however, we didn't know what exactly had happened to it at the time.
No, we didn't.
But you posted a picture of it down, I believe,
Uh-huh.
kind of saying the whole story that I had had chemo. And I think I'd had chemo like 2 days earlier. And as soon as I felt good enough, we went by the tree.
Yes.
And it was this thing of like, you wrote it in your story on your post. And then somebody responded to that. And
They told us what happened.
This is how interesting, again, fate.
Right.
But somebody responded to it and said, I was there 2 days earlier, which was the day I was getting chemo.
Uh-huh.
And it was up and then it got hit by lightning, they thought.
No.
It
was
had
a
like
crack. Moisture got
it
in
had
the
a crack. And then it got
froze.
like a fungus and a disease inside and it split
It
and
separated.
it just fell over.
Yes. Yeah, no, that was interesting. That is fate. And we just had to find a different place to go. But
it was never
was devastating.
quite the same.
No.
And we never found
No.
another oak tree that was a stand-in for that oak tree.
we found one
Well,
close
we found
by
other
later.
things, but not like that. It was
That
never
will
the
never be there
same.
again. And such
It
is
was
life.
right off the road. It was so perfect for the time and what we were going through.
And it was easy to get to because, at that time we couldn't really go
But I
too
think
far.
in a way it just kind of shows you that how the one thing we thought was that oak is so strong. And then with what I was going
Right.
through and how
We
I
needed
had
the
to be
strength.
strong. And we just felt, at least I did, Karl, like looking at it, I thought like, this is how fragile everything is.
You're absolutely right. Nate, it doesn't matter. Life is precious, and everybody says it. You have to enjoy every day. You do. It's as simple as that. There's nothing else we can say. Don't waste a moment because you never know.
Oh, I still waste moments all the time. But, it was definitely, again, like a parallel journey with what I was going through to see that it.
So we use photography for healing,
Mhm.
and even with that, that was a bad day.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's your spot. It's your
Yeah.
it's your go-to, and it had been our go-to. Mainly because with chemo, you never know how far you're able
No,
to
you're
go.
right. You're right.
It wasn't as easy to go as many places. So that spot was kind of our standby. It was, our like steady,
It was our
always
spot.
there.
Yeah.
And
All reliable.
but in a way, the good thing about that is something I'm horrible at, which is adapting, having acceptance, and then changing your perspective. And I've always been horrible at that, as you know. You're great at it. And I think that was a forced perspective change.
Absolutely.
And I think in life sometimes, and cancer was one for me too, but I feel that those things happen sometimes just so that people like me that do have trouble adapting or accepting things, you have to. I'm still
Yes.
on that people mover we talked about.
Oh, yes.
I'm still going forward.
I think we're all on the people mover. We just,
right.
yeah.
But
We want to be standing up on it instead of on our back. But forced.
I want to step off the people mover sometimes.
Can't do it. It's
right.
yeah. No,
But
you
I
want to
wanna
step off.
so I have time
Yes.
to adjust, accept, and then step back on.
Right.
And I know you can't, but what I'm saying is for people like me to have that forced acceptance, and that's what it was when that oak fell, because you have to adapt, or you're not on the people mover anymore. You know what I mean?
I like that
So-
forced perspective change. And what
I
that
felt like
does,
it.
it gives you more perspectives because you have to find another. And the more perspectives you have, the more healthy you can be because it helps and more experience. So you're right. That did force us to look at different things, find different spots,
We
expand
had to.
instead
We
of
had
going to
to.
the same spot over and over.
And the thing with an oak tree, what's so interesting about that, it just like with anything in nature, with humans, with everything, you're never going to find the same one. You're never going to find anything that's the same, that looks the same, that photographs the same, that, you know what I mean? So
I know.
as we were looking and trying to find a new spot, it's almost like not necessarily grief, but that's the forced perspective change. You have to accept that the one's gone. You have to accept that it's going to be something completely new. And it's the same with life. When you lose a job, you lose a partner, you know, you have to accept, adapt, you know what I mean, and move forward.
And no matter how good it was, how much you loved it, her, him, whatever it may be,
The job,
it's
the
done.
car, whatever.
You have to move on. Enjoy the memory, move on, and it's much easier said than done.
Mhm.
But it's you have to do it. And you're right. That's exactly another time we had to do that.
Right.
And that's called life, you know, and
It is. That's a
it's
good
tough.
analogy for many things
Tough.
we have experienced in life. I mean, with cancer, and we're going through that simultaneously, and that tree was our refuge.
Right.
And then we go to it to seek that refuge and to find that peace, and it's on the ground.
And
I'm literally at the time, Karl, I was literally thinking like, okay, so I'm supposed to stay standing, and this humongous oak tree,
yeah, the mighty
split-
oak is down.
split in the middle and fell over.
And that was our strength, and our strength was gone. But
Well,
you're
it was
right.
like a refuge for me.
Forced perspective change. And
Mhm.
we survived. We moved on. It was devastating at the time, but
Right.
there's always that light at the end of the tunnel. And that's a good way to look at it and talk
Well,
about
and the
that.
kind of cool thing about that is because of that, we endeavored to places we might not have, especially during
Absolutely.
chemo.
Absolutely.
So again, I don't know, I keep talking about fate, but I feel like if that tree had stayed, we would have stayed going to that tree.
right.
So that's this 5-minute drive from our house, you know, here.
yes.
But because that tree fell, we had to expand our area to like here to find another tree or something else. You know, we doubled our area. And at the time, it was easy, not easy to hold myself back, but, you know, it was easy because I wasn't feeling good to say, well, let's just go to that tree.
It was
and
convenient.
shoot. No, it was also easy because I wasn't feeling well. So it's easy
Right.
just to say, okay, I can do 5 miles from our house or 5 minutes or whatever it was. But it's more difficult to go out not knowing where you're going to go, not knowing what you're going to find, which is life. But it's more difficult to do that when you're not feeling well.
Absolutely. And this, listening to what you're saying there, it's a new challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Then you challenge yourself and you do even more than you were doing. And that's
Right.
a good thing.
And we
But
went
at the
to,
time, it's not.
we went to the snow at one point, and I remember
Oh,
because
my poor babe.
we went there and it was deep. It had snowed a lot that year, and in California.
Well, we went up
But,
to Tahoe to go
right.
to your pond you like, and the snow was thick.
Yeah, well, couldn't make it to the pond, but I
Right.
remember getting out. I think I was able to take like maybe up to 5 steps. With chemo, it burns your muscles after a while. So, I mean, at least for me, you know, it was more and more difficult to do the stairs or walk farther. And the snow just put it over the edge because it was probably like up to the top of my thighs. So it
Almost
was
waist deep.
right. So it was tough. And you know, I took those. I still think I have a picture from then because it was really not of anything. There was nothing good within 5 steps of the car, but that's as far as I could go.
That's all we had.
You know, so sometimes you just have to go as far as you can go, make what you can out of what you've got, and be happy with that, because you can only do what you can do. But I'd rather have taken those 5 steps and took a picture than not gotten out of the car.
Or leaving the house, let alone the car.
But what I mean is, when I
experience.
got there, I knew it'd be tough, but I thought, well, I'm going to go as far as I can go. And it
And you
wasn't as
did.
far as I wanted to go, and it wasn't as far as I wished I could go, but I chose to be happy with as far as I could go. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Sometimes we just have to be happy with as far as we can go.
Absolutely.
It might not be where we want to be, but the next year I went back there when it was snowing, and I was able to go the whole way, you
Right.
know? So I think that that's a big part of life. Sometimes you can't do 30 steps. Sometimes you can only do 5. Sometimes you can do 1, but it's better than none.
It's be happy with what you can do, and that's it.
And again, that's adapting.
It is, and it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Well, yeah, because I felt weak at the time, and I felt in a way like, not that you were judging me, but I felt like it was reflecting on me. Maybe internally, I just didn't want to appear sick. And you already automatically appear sick when you have no hair and you're losing weight, or you can't eat, these different things. And you're going to at least 2 doctor's appointments a week, and you already feel sick in so many circumstances. And when I'm out there by myself, I always told people photography is a solo sport, because I could be out there bald. I could be out there, I never wear makeup. I just look like whatever, and just me and the camera and whatever we see. And that's what I enjoyed about it. And again, you brought that into our lives, and I'm deeply appreciative of that. And I'm sure I've brought that up. Right?
No, I appreciate it, and it's taken us on many journeys, and
not planned. That's what I loved about it. Is this was a completely organic experience that we didn't look for. We didn't even know what we were getting into. We didn't plan for it.
There was no plan other than healing.
Right.
We didn't care.
And I didn't even know that was, to me, the only plan was just try it, because I was a little bit.
I had healing in mind.
No, and that's good foresight on your part, but I couldn't put any expectations on myself, because my only goal was making it through each day.
Right. You had a lot more on your mind. It's your body, and
I just wanted to make it through the days. And
yeah. So it was very helpful.
The camera helped.
It was helpful. So you talked about challenging yourself, and then as the followers grew, we started to do a little more different photography, incorporating different things into our photography. And I can remember one day I was very proud of you, and I kind of tricked you again, or I didn't know how far the drone would fly. But we were doing a shoot on a kayak, and I asked you if you'd go in the water and kayak out. And, there's houses or cabins across Donner Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you, paddle to the other side of the lake.
No, that's not what you said. So you basically said, paddle as far as you can go. Just keep going. And
yeah, I probably did.
Something like that.
Yeah, my goal was to see
just
you
very general
with that and fly the drone out there.
So I could hear the drone at one point, and then eventually I kind of couldn't hear it. I was the only one on the lake. It was perfectly glassy.
It was
still.
Awesome.
I happened to have my camera with me, and I think at the time I just had it like in a Ziploc bag in, the kayak there body.
Mm-hmm.
And the lake was so still, it wasn't like any water was getting in my kayak.
It was beautiful.
The paddle was 2 pieces that hooks together, kind of like has a little button that pops up, hooks together, and then it makes one paddle. So it ends up, I guess, that lake's over a mile across, because
well, that's what I found out,
because the drone only goes a mile, and I went all the way across the lake. But I went into a cove, and there were lots of houses, and it was so perfectly still once I stopped my kayak. So I got out my camera out of the baggie, and that's my waterproof case. And then I just started taking pictures of the kayak with the reflections of all these gorgeous houses. and the snow, everything was covered in snow, which is so like
It was
peaceful.
beautiful.
And
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know if you had seen any of it because you're still on the other side of the lake.
I didn't know it till later.
I eventually realized I'm not hearing your drone anymore and whatever. So I put my camera back in the bag and put it in, and then I paddled back. And then when I get back, I told you, like, you need to go see how, right? Didn't I say, like, you need to go
You
see?
said you found a nice spot. Need to go
I
check
said, like,
it out.
you need to see it. Looks so much different from the water and when you're over on the other side.
Right.
And then I don't even think you let me know yet that you didn't get me on your drone because I was too far.
Well, what happened was I was going to get the drone shot of you, and I got some up high with the cloud reflection into water and the little bitty kayak with you in it. And
Sounds great.
one thing we didn't mention, it was 29 degrees. 26 degrees. And she was out there alone. But what happened was when she paddled out, I flew my drone to get a shot of her by the cabins like I was thinking. But the drone only went a mile, and I didn't realize it's like 2 miles across the lake. So I never was able to get the shot.
I didn't know if you told me till we went home because I think I was so excited for you to come out.
Yeah.
But
anyway, we did get together and go out there.
And luckily, I think I had gloves because the paddle is metal. And what I was saying earlier with those two pieces that fit together, we found out later on that they froze together. We couldn't even get them apart to fold it back up.
Well, let's go back to when we went out there. So we both kayaked out there. We got our shots.
So I had gone a mile out, a mile back.
Over a mile.
And then
over a mile.
went again. Yes.
Yeah. So then we went out there. We had a good day. We enjoyed it. But when we came back, like you said, the paddles clicked together.
Two pieces, yeah.
They were frozen. I couldn't separate them. The kayak we had was a foldable one, and there was ice all over the kayak from where the water comes as you paddle. There was ice everywhere.
It was freezing. It was
freezing cold.
But when you're moving, luckily we were like moving a lot,
right.
So you don't realize it. My hands were cold, but that was about it.
Right. But it was a beautiful day. Great experience. And the point of the story is we wouldn't have been there if we weren't shooting this kayak. And that was our excuse to get out. And it was a glorious day. I remember it to this day. And we wouldn't be there if it wasn't for photography.
Forced perspective change.
Forced
perspective change.
Right.
Because the kayak forced us to get out there and do it. And, so with all of this, it's been kind of a little push each step of the way.
So it evolves. It evolves. And photography was great for that and get us through that time.
Right.
And it's a metaphor for life. The challenge, overcoming, adjusting, forced perspective change. I like that. That's going to stick in my mind. But and all of this is while you're going through the worst experience of your life, basically. Cancer, treatment.
One of the worst.
There's life is, has many surprises for sure. And we'll have a lot of stories on this podcast for inspiration.
I mean, that experience was part of the people mover. The cancer was automatic. Like it was going to keep happening no matter what. The photography was a choice.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the really great things about it, because when you're in a process that's so forced, you just have to do it, grin and bear it. You got to get through it. It was nice to have something that was light and that was my own choice and that was, for pleasure and for peace and not something, they were drastically opposites.
And we needed it.
Right.
And it was fulfilling. And it brought us together too. And we do everything together. Very, very helpful.
So we started out talking about Instagram and how we got into it. And I think a really interesting story that you could share is also that you ended up getting your mom into Instagram.
Oh, yeah, that's right. My mom's in her mid-70s. She probably just retired. And she has had lymphoma. She's passed since. So what she did, we showed her Instagram. We explained it.
Well, you did.
Well, I showed her Instagram and explained it because I thought she might like it because she couldn't get out. And then she took on to it pretty good. She started posting, and She could only take pictures of stuff in the trailer.
And as you told her, she took notes. She took notes.
She did. She was
how
serious.
to do each thing.
She did.
Because she really wanted to know, and she'd call you with questions.
She did.
Right.
And we check in with her, and she followed me, followed you, and you know, I do anything for a follower, so I got her on there. So she started taking pictures of her antiques, like the teapots, teacups.
Or she would do a whole like place setting, set it up. She did set displays.
She enjoys the setup, and she really got into it. And she'd post her pictures, and she didn't have to travel or do anything. She could post right from her house. She enjoyed that. But what I found interesting is there's people throughout the world that do the same thing.
She found similar accounts.
She did.
Similar interests, just like we did with nature, but with collecting.
Yes.
Vintage accounts.
Yes.
She would tell us like which ones she looked up to and hoped to get a following like them. And she'd show us their pictures. How do you think they get this look? You know,
it was awesome.
Right.
And then she'd go, KARL, I have 5 followers. Like, oh, great, Ma. KARL, I have 10 followers. Oh, my God. Oh, great, Ma. She loved it. She tracked it.
And some of my followers followed her.
Yes, mine too, because they knew she was Mama. But she really enjoyed it, and it expanded her life.
It enhanced
Yes,
her.
It did. And she really enjoyed that, and she started posting every day. It got to the point where I knew about what time she'd get up or what she's doing that day because she posted every day.
It was at the point when she was too ill to be going to, kind of similar to me, you know, where you can't go where you want to go. She was able to go there through Instagram.
And she truly appreciated it, and she loved those pictures. Remember, we'd go visit her, and she'll, oh, Cuddle Kathy, look at this.
No, she forwarded me on DMs.
Well, that too.
Many photos of people that she also loved Disney. So any photos with Disney, the castle with a cool sunset or whatever. And she would forward them to me, oftentimes without any words of her own, just wanting me to, you know, to share these posts with me.
Yeah.
And then also we found out after she passed that she had several people that she actually had developed closer friendships with that she was DMing back and forth. And she had friends through Instagram as well. And I just think that's so valuable because she was living alone. You know, she had a condition that limited her physically as far as where she could go, what she could do.
Mm-hmm.
And this opened the whole world to her through her phone.
It gave her spark back.
It did. It really
gave her spark
her.
back.
Almost like if you had a new job or it gave her a purpose.
Yes. And it was what I liked about it. She could do it whenever she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
She was in control of where she went, what she wanted to see. And it was interactive. She got friends through it.
Mm-hmm.
It really kept her going very well. And I had no idea that was going to happen.
No,
I didn't know the benefits. I didn't even know if she'd like it.
No. Yeah,
but
there's
she did.
no way
and
to
it
know.
was a great
and again,
positive thing.
You just put it out there and then you see, you know, and then she would ask more follow-up questions. And, oh, what about this? And your mom was very good at asking, you know, you questions about Instagram, which also bonded the two of you.
That's
you
true
know,
too.
in
Didn't
those
think of
years,
that.
because she and I bonded over cancer, but with you, you know, you bonded because she'd call you about, oh, KARL, have you seen this feature on Instagram?
You're right.
You know,
you're right. It's something we did together.
right.
That's absolutely. I never thought of that.
Right. And the photography was so vastly different because hers was in her house with her phone, but that was what was accessible to her.
Right. And that wasn't even the important part. The important part is the interaction, the connection.
You know what was important to me about it with her was that the time she took to set up her stuff.
She did.
She made sure she had like lace on the table and set the stuff on top and everything matching. And I want this teapot with this cup. And and she would write out in her notebook what all she had set out for these flat lays. Yeah, I was really impressed with her process, to be honest, and the amount of thought and care she put into it. Clearly, people saw that because she had those close DM relationships where people, you know, would write her about her photos, and none of them knew she had cancer because
she wouldn't tell anybody.
No, nobody knew. And
she didn't even tell people in the park how old she was.
Well, she also didn't tell them at work when she had to quit her job, which was because of cancer. She
Right.
retired.
She didn't
But
want
she
any
didn't
pity.
want to tell anyone.
Yes, she didn't tell anyone.
And so that had nothing to do, that's the difference with us. But these people became her friends through the shared interest of the antiques and and I think that's such a powerful thing. And at the end of the day, I think that we need to give credit to our son, Clint, because he planted that seed in you in Bremerton years and years ago, when Instagram had first come out. And like you said, you didn't know what Instagram was or what was going to happen. You took a picture of your pizza.
Right. So when he planted a seed, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think of that. And it goes all the way back to that for us, for this chain. And he planted a seed and I let it sit. And then, no, you let it sit. I watered mine a little bit. I didn't do much.
I didn't even take the seed.
You didn't even take the seed.
I was just like, this is beyond what I'm,
Because when my mom, we planted a seed with her, she watered it, grew and fertilized it and kept going.
Lots of fertilizer,
Yeah, for us, I watered it, then it started to bloom. Then when mine started to bloom, you planted your seed and then they both bloomed. But you're right. I never thought about the seed thing with that. And it all started that one little thing in Bremerton.
Right.
We wouldn't be here without that.
Well, we wouldn't be doing this.
No.
And I wouldn't have gone to Epicurrence. I mean, it's a whole series of events. And that's the point that I tried to make on Chris's show, Christo. And that's the point I really think is important for people to know. You do not know how far that seed is going to go. I give you a seed, you plant it, you grow 5 watermelons, you give people the seeds and they plant it. And then you don't know.
You have no idea. You don't even know you're giving them a seed, but you don't know what's coming up. Like you said, watermelons, one could be a weed. We don't know. But if we reach out, plant the seeds by connecting with people, basically, and whatever the conversation leads to that specific interaction, because they're all different, you don't know what seeds planted. You don't know, but all you know, it's a positive interaction.
And I think part of that is you don't know what seeds they need at the time. There's no way to read people. I can't read people's minds. So you don't know what seeds they need.
Right.
If you're literally going to the store for real seeds, like, okay, I want to grow zucchini and I want to grow this.
A pickle.
Right. But you don't grow a pickle.
Well, cucumber, whatever.
But the point is you can have a list and you can go buy the seeds. But with knowledge and with all the different factors in life, like we had talked earlier about being on that people mover and being knocked down by a beam, we have to keep going on that people mover, but we're carrying something at that point. Anything to lighten it, like when you bought that camera, that was the seed, so I think it's impossible. You didn't know when you bought that camera how far it would go or how many different cameras we'd get or all the different things we would do with the camera. But you planted that seed anyway. You take that leap of faith and you say, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and put this here. I'm just going to put this information out, this piece of my heart, whatever. I'm going to share this, and it's up to that person what they do with the seed.
Absolutely.
They may not need it. They may honestly not need that seed at that point. However, who knows if, like me with the Instagram seed, if in 2-3 years, they may think, oh, I was given that seed by KARL. I'm going to go ahead and utilize that now because I have space for that seed in my garden. I need that plant.
That's why every interaction is so important. Genuine interaction with no motives. And while you're talking, it reminds me of when I was in high school. I got some input on music, has nothing to do, kind of life, but certain type of music, that's nothing. And then later on in life, when we started doing our albums, we got into that music again. And then I realized what he was talking about back then. It has an impact on my life now because it's broadened my scope. It's broadened my sense of meaning through this music.
And then you spread that to me because I had never, ever heard some of this music. And you spread that to me. You shared that seed with me. And I just think that you know, if you look at all the different ways your life's enhanced over the years, generally, most of it, it's from other human beings. And
Interactions. Or what you see.
yeah, I mean, it's from learning from each other. And I just feel that if we don't open our door, if we don't try to share something, nobody can tell you everything. We can't tell anyone everything. But if you tell them one thing of value, if you give them one seed that they can water and it can bloom and enhance their life, and then also that comes back to you, because you may or may not know that what you gave them was super valuable. You may never know. I had
Right.
many interactions during cancer that were of great value to me. And I'm sure the people did not know that, because all I needed was just that little bump of kindness. I need a little tiny, like a sunflower seed, you know? I just needed a tiny seed at that time because it meant so much. Everything else was so heavy that just any hint of a possible plant growing, you know,
Right.
warmed
No,
my
I hear you.
heart. And I just feel that we may never know the value of what we give to others, but we should give it freely anyway.
We're not giving it for a value or for anything in response. And
Right. But it
yeah,
is nice when somebody comes back to
absolutely
you
is.
after years and says,
hmm
what you did for me helped. And you've had that experience.
No, I've had that experience. Someone did come to me and tell me we had a conversation years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they told me it impacted them, and this is why. And I didn't even remember the conversation because, you know, we have so many interactions, but I did when they told me, and it meant a lot for them to tell me because that fulfills me that I was able to contribute something that made a difference. And that's what we all should try to do.
I actually feel like it's almost more valuable when it's like that and it's years later and it's to the point where you forgot. You forgot you even shared that seed with that person. You forgot. You let it go because, again, you're on that people mover. You're moving forward. You've probably shared many other seeds along the way. And then out of the blue, this person comes back and says to you, you gave me something valuable and I want to let you know. To me,
That's nothing better than that.
right. And you know what he did? He gave you a seed back, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's very touching. Yeah, there'll be some tears on this show, but I'm going to try to keep it good now. But yeah, that's what it's all about. That's it. That's the core of it all. So
Well, to me too. And I think you say we're vastly different. You know, you said that before. And I really feel, yes, we are. But the common thread with us and the thing that holds us together is our love of humanity. And I think at the end of the day, we both have this deep trust in just human kindness
absolutely.
and the value of
Mhm.
that in life. Because you can own things, you can have great jobs, you can have titles, but at the end of the day, it's what's in your heart that matters. It's the kindness you show each other. And we've both been at places in life where you're kind of just so steeped in pain
Yes.
that the only thing that it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter how much money you have at that point. Pain is pain. The only thing that helps at that point are human connections.
Love and happiness.
Well, to me, human connections, you know, when I was at the hospital after my surgery, I was in bed, you know, I couldn't get out of bed. And my roommate's phone, I had a roommate, and there was a curtain between us, so I never saw her. And my roommate's phone kept ringing. And it didn't think she maybe knew how to answer the phone. And then we had the call button for the nurse, and I would call the nurse, and every time you call, it'd be, what do you need? You know, and
Yes.
it's like, I'm in pain or whatever you need. You know, it's basic things you need, but you have to go back on the speaker, tell them what you need.
Yes.
When my roommate would call and they would say, what do you need? They couldn't hear her because her voice from being intubated, before.
She couldn't speak loud or clear.
They couldn't hear her. And then they wouldn't come and check. And so the next morning, I was finally able to get up. I had to get up because I had a situation.
And you were in pain.
I was in pain. But what got me through that was when I did get up and then you left and her phone rang again and it was never answered. And I thought, I don't think she knows how to answer the phone. I don't know.
She might not have been able to move to answer it. I don't know.
So I went over there and I introduced myself and I basically said, I'm Kathryn. I have breast cancer. And she said whatever her name was, and she had a different cancer. And her phone was there on her bed, and I said, do you know how, to answer this? And we went through the phone, and she thanked me. And then I said, if you need the nurse, you can tell me when you need the nurse, and I can call them from my button.
How sweet.
And tell them what you need. And we talked, and it ended up that she was a retired nurse.
Oh, wow.
From another country. But she was a retired nurse.
Wow.
The nurses didn't know that.
Oh.
And it didn't seem to matter one way or the other. It didn't matter that she had probably done that for years and helped so many other people.
And when she needed it, it was tough.
But what got me through my hospital stay is that I was able to help her.
Awesome.
Me getting out of bed for me was the most pain I've ever experienced in my life.
I remember.
But me getting out of bed and then being able to help her made it easier.
Awesome.
So I guess that's kind of the purpose for me of this show and of life in general, is just if we can give something forward that then makes life easier for us.
Yes.
If
Absolutely.
we can carry compassion from our places of pain instead of anger.
Yes.
How much different could things be? We just got to, everyone open your front door, let your light out and see. And I know it's hard to have that trust, but when you've been in these deep pain and then you can use that to help others, to me, that's what it's all about.
It is. And it's hard to do for some. And once you do it little by little, it feeds itself and then it'll grow from there. But that's a good podcast. We'll end it on that beautiful note.
Serious.
Well, it got serious there, didn't it? But it's okay. Life's serious and it is what it is. We can't tell you everything, but we can try to plant a seed here or there. And
we can hope.
That's
if
all we
one
can
person
do.
Gets one thing, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
And I know that sounds so, I don't know what it sounds like, but
who the hell knows? I don't know.
It's the truth. So that's all there is.
We have no agenda. We're just us. Thank you for listening and watching. Tell somebody if you like it.
Subscribe, like,
whatever
share.
else they say. I don't know.
I have no idea what they say on YouTube or
but it's good to be
are.
here. And love you and have a good night.
Are you saying that to me or to everyone else?
To you.
Okay.
Love them too.
I love you too. Carl.
All right.